The conversation about the National Cathedral keeps taking a different turn at every step of the way. The plot is thickening. And a man who has been very vociferous and at the forefront of the conversations asking for accountability is the Member of Parliament for the South Tongue constituency, North Tongue constituency, the Volta region. And Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa is my guest in studio. Good morning. How are you calling? How are you doing?
Hi, I'm well.
Good to see you.
Same here. Hope
all
you're
these
doing
documents.
Well. You have to tell Grandpa Claudine that the Son of Man can also do with a few collections.
He will.
You know,
He will certainly.
He shouldn't be blessing you alone.
I like Made in Ghana.
Yeah.
I like Made in Ghana as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic. What are all these books for?
National Cathedral. We are still probing. We are still digging, and we are still unraveling a lot of mysteries. It's really a shame that a project which is being done in the name of the Holy Lord has been immersed in all of these controversies, all these illegalities, all this unconstitutionalism, all these, naked deception and blatant disregard for our laws. It's really mind-boggling that we will not approach. If there's any one project in this country which should be approached with utmost purity, utmost holiness, utmost integrity, it should be this project. But unfortunately, all of those qualities have been lacking. Are
you against the construction of the cathedral?
So let me be clear. As a Christian, we all know that things of the Lord should be supported and should be encouraged. And all of us must put our shoulders to the wheel. But it must be done when there is an above-board conduct by those spearheading it. We know in the Bible, when you read 1 Chronicles chapter 28, verses 2 and 3, when David purposed in his heart to build a temple for the Lord, the Lord rejected the offer. The Lord said, you have blood on your hands, so you are not fit. Your son, many years thereafter, Solomon will come and build it. So we know that as Christians, the Lord is interested in the process, and He's interested in your intentions and your conduct. That is why in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 11, the Bible says that don't partake in the dark works of others. Rather, expose them. And that's the crusade I have been on. Exposing.
Yours is exposure.
Exposure.
Some think you're putting spokes in the wheels of President Akufo-Addo and people who are like-minded in the construction of the National Cathedral. You're putting the spokes in their wheels. Is that what you're doing?
Not at all. Indeed, what we are doing, and let's be clear, this whole promise of a national cathedral began as a personal pledge. The president made that emphatically when he first went public about this pledge. He said that it was a personal pledge to the Almighty that if the Lord blesses him and he wins the 2016 elections, he told the Lord that he will build a cathedral in his honor. So we Christians call it a thanksgiving offering. Now, that is a personal pledge, and it has always proceeded as such. Indeed, when he set up the board of trustees and inaugurated them, he told them that, look, this is a personal pledge. I'm relying on the Christian community to come on board and support me. So the eminent priests all went public. You recall the Archbishop Duncan Williams. I have enormous respect for him. He's, one of the spiritual icons, a colossus, you know, over 45 years of ministry. I mean, I hold him in very high esteem. He went public and said that he doesn't even understand why some Ghanaians are raising their voices and criticizing this project, and that they are not using taxpayers' funds. So they should just back off. Another eminent priest who I accord a lot of respect, the Venerable Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opuni Frimpong, also went public. And of all of those press cuttings here, it's been, these publications have been overflocked, so I don't want to, bring them out and rehash them. He went public. Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opuni Frimpong said that the president told them that this is a personal pledge, the Christian churches will build it. And even in recent times, as recent as the 8th of June this month, Reverend Dr. Kwabena Opuni Frimpong has said that at all their meetings, the former Religious and Chieftaincy Affairs Minister, the Honorable Jamesi, told them again and again that the churches are going to build it. Indeed, when James Kwabena Bonfe went to the Supreme Court, saying that this is a secular state and that the court should pull the brakes, the government should not be investing taxpayer funds in one religion, and the government should really, stay away and maintain a neutral posture in order not to be seen discriminating amongst the religions. The case of government, as presented, and what was upheld by the court. Indeed, I have that judgment here. If you read page 19 of that judgment, in the case of James Kwabena Bonfe Jr.
and the state
versus the Attorney General, the judgment delivered by the Supreme Court 23rd January 2019, the quorum was Adenyera Adochie Yeboah Badegbe Akoto Bamfo Benin Mafo Sao JSC. May Mafo Sao also rest in peace. A very distinguished jurist. This is what they said at page 19. We take note that the government has maintained a consistent theme about the unifying effects of the cathedral on Ghanaian Christians. So far, its contribution is to provide land for the cathedral and the actual construction to be sponsored and financed by the churches. So even the eminent judges, the Supreme Court judges, were misled.
They were made to believe this. Now that it's evident that the state is contributing, we've seen the letters flying around, consultants in 32 million, we've seen 25 million, all of that.
And 142.7 million.
Right. What are these noble men of God saying? Have you heard them speak?
Well, I'm not here to speak for the men of God. I'm here to speak as a member of parliament who has taken an oath to conduct myself in manners that are constitutional and to pursue a very onerous obligation imposed on me and all my 274 colleagues. And that mandate is clearly enshrined in Article 178 of the 1992 Constitution. If you read Article 178 of the Constitution, it provides that no monies shall be withdrawn from the consolidated fund, except A, to meet expenditure that is charged on that fund by this Constitution or by an Act of Parliament, or B, where the issue of those monies has been authorized, I, by an Appropriation Act, or II, by a supplementary estimate approved by resolution of Parliament passed for the purpose, or III, by an Act of Parliament enacted under Article 179 of this Constitution, or IV, by rules or regulations made under an Act of Parliament in respect of trust monies paid into the consolidated fund. So
you're pointing towards an illegality committed.
Clearly, when we intercepted the colossal sums of monies that have been paid, warrants issued by the finance minister, the Honorable Ken Ofori-Atta, we were totally shocked.
You mean Parliament?
Parliament. Because at no point did we approve these allocations. I mean, it's such an egregious violation of Article 178. So we decided to look into the matters further.
Okay, what did you
And
find?
we found a can of worms, putrefying. I mean, so stenchy.
Would you, before you move on, would
Yeah.
you want the eminent men of God to speak now? Because they took a position, having, with the benefit of the information given to them, and with the continuous assurance that this was not going to be state-funded. Now that it's turning out with evidence that it's state-funded, would you at this point want them to speak, to make a public declaration?
I really would love them to speak. I believe that the government has been most unfair to them. If you recall, last week I put out a statement when I noticed that based on the work we are doing, the exposés, a number of Ghanaians have launched blistering attacks at these eminent men of God.
Right.
I issued a statement that no, they should back off. They shouldn't do that. That's not my objective
intention.
or my intention. I believe strongly that they were misled like all of us by government. Indeed, all the documentation I have reviewed point to the fact that these men of God were really kept in the dark. A lot of the payments were direct. If you check the payments to Sir David Ajayi and Associates, it is the office of the president. Can you imagine? It's the chief of staff.
Right.
Even though we have a board of trustees,
I know, Levi, you may put up that letter. It's part of the pack.
We have a national cathedral secretariat. It was not them writing to PPA and conducting some selection process or some tender. It was the office of the president in a letter signed by the chief of staff in 2018 to the PPA, asking for Sir David Ajayi to be engaged on sole sourcing basis. So if you look at all of these things, the 25 million cedis that we revealed, again, you notice that the payment to Ribade Construction Company Limited was done directly. Finance Minister instructed the Control Accountant General and provided the account details of Ribade Company Limited. So you see a lot of things happening, you know, over and above the
But the Secretariat recently has been responding.
The Board
they
of
wrote,
Trustees.
You know, about 5-6 pages explaining the state of affairs to us, and at some point even admitting that some things had been done in the way that it shouldn't have been done. That should settle that. That's a bit for you.
My brother, the National Cathedral Secretariat will have to come back.
And do what?
After their statement of June 17, 2022, I decided to give them the benefit of the doubt and just carry out some verification. I am totally bewildered about the findings. The National Cathedral Secretariat does not appear to have been candid with the Ghanaian people. They have been less than truthful on a number of fronts. For example, when in this statement, at page 2 of the statement, item II, the National Cathedral, public or private, they say in the second paragraph that for the avoidance of doubt, the National Cathedral is a national monument and thus a public, not private project. Legally, the National Cathedral of Ghana is a state-owned company limited by guarantee and was incorporated under the Companies Act 1963, Act 179, on July 18, 2019. We hope this brings to closure the seemingly vexatious issue of whether the National Cathedral is a private or public initiative. The National Cathedral is a national monument, an asset, and not a private project.
What did you find contrary to this?
So I secure the incorporation documents from the Registrar General's Department. And to my amazement, it's registered as a private entity.
Wait, the National Cathedral that's being built now is a private entity. In whose name?
Private entity. Company limited by guarantee, that's a business type. The object of the company to own the asset of the National Cathedral of Ghana 2, to administer the National Cathedral project. 3, to serve as a convening platform for national conversation of faith. 4, to operate an interdenominational church for national purposes. Then you see the directors.
Right.
Again, another misrepresentation. If you read page 5 of their statement, they told us that all of the people advertised as the Board of Trustees
Right.
are those registered as directors of this company.
Right.
We have discovered that the venerable, the eminent, the most, revered Bishop Dag Hayward Mills, who is the bishop of the Lighthouse Group of Churches, is not featured at all.
But his picture is on the website.
And yet his picture is on the website, even this morning as we speak, as a member of the Board of Trustees.
But so why is he not featured in this?
The National Cathedral Secretary should be telling us, because they tell us in this statement at page 5 that everybody who features as trustees is registered here as director. A second name, the former moderator of the Presbyterian Church, the Reverend Professor Cephas Omenyo, doesn't feature. 2 eminent men of God don't feature at all. In their place, we have one Samuel Enchi and another gentleman who is described here as Ofosu Intiamwa Kingsley.
They are the replacement
they replace Bishop Dak and the moderator, the former moderator of the Presbyterian Church.
Is Dr. Otabil still there?
No.
Is he part of the... Okay.
No, Dr. Otabil is not here. So it's most shocking. You wonder what is going on. Now, I'm even beginning to wonder, is Bishop Dag Hayward Mills aware that he is not here? Even though there's this misrepresentation at the website, on the website of the National Cathedral Secretariat, and in a statement that was issued to the Ghanaian public last Friday. Then, this is the explosive bit.
Tell me.
And this is the first time I'm putting this out. We'll be exploring this in further detail in the coming hours. Would you believe that this private entity, the secretary to the board, the secretary to the company, at page 3 of this incorporation document, is Godfrey Dame,
the Attorney General?
The Attorney General.
Is the secretary to
the
yes. private company that's supposed to be the owners of the National Cathedral?
Yes.
Which document you sourced from
the Registrar General's Department? Yes. And remember that this incorporation was done on the 18th of July 2019. At the time, Godfrey Dame was Deputy Attorney General.
That's right, in charge of prosecutions.
So you cannot say that this is a position for the Attorney General. In any case, this is registered as a private entity, not a state-owned entity. And it is his name, not the position, not the office. 2019, when he was deputy. Guess what? In 2019, Godfrey Dame was a member of the PPA board. And our digging, further digging, reveals that he did not recuse himself when Sir David Ajay was being awarded all of these colossal sums of money in the name of sole source contracts. When you read the PPA letter that we revealed yesterday, signed by the disgraced A.B. Ajay, who is being prosecuted now by the special prosecutor, you realize that in that letter, they make the most outrageous, the most outlandish, have a look at this. Totally outlandish justification for granting Sir David Ajay this sole source contract.
Right.
They refer, if you read that letter carefully, they say that they are granting David Ajay the sole source contract by virtue of the Public Procurement Act, or on the basis of the Public Procurement Act 2003 at 663, section 72(5)(b). What does Section 72.5b say? I have the law here.
Quote it, let's hear.
Section 72.5b, the procurement entity may select consultants by inviting proposals from a single consultant where there is, B says, an emergency as specified in section 41b and c. Let's go to section 41b and c. Section 41b and c provides, 1, a procurement entity may engage in single source procurement under section 41 with the approval of the board. B says, where there is an urgent need for the goods, works, or services, and engaging in tender proceedings or any other method of procurement is impractical due to unforeseeable circumstances, giving rise to the urgency, which is not the result of dilatory conduct on the part of the procurement entity. C, where owing to a catastrophic event, there is an urgent need for the goods, works, or technical services, making it impractical to use other methods of procurement because of the time involved in using these methods.
Contravention.
Flagrant contravention. This doesn't apply. It cannot satisfy what was happening. Look, there was no emergency. There was no catastrophe. When they were awarding this contract, 2018, 2019, no emergency. There was no national disaster. There was no pandemic. COVID had come later, 2020. Even during COVID, it will not, because this is not some health. He wasn't coming to design some emergency hospital for us. This is National Cathedral. So it cannot apply. If you talk to the procurement experts, and I have been talking to them, they can't believe the level of recklessness, that there can be absolutely no basis. And this was a Deputy Attorney General in a clear conflict of interest situation. He's here as secretary to this private entity called the National Cathedral. Then he's positioned on the PPA board to be granting these illegal approvals. Approvals that sin against the law, affronts. I mean, how can you say that by emergency, by catastrophe? So said David Ajayi. And guess how much he's paid?
No, tell me.
The documents we have put out. The chief of staff makes justification for him to get 12.5% of the contract.
What's wrong with that?
Everything is wrong with that.
Why?
Talk to the Ghana Institute of Architects. The standard in Ghana is 4%. They don't go beyond 4%. And even that 4%, when the contract sum is huge, it's colossal, the percentage reduces.
If more or less divide.
Yes.
If less, more divide.
Exactly. Then we have checked RIBA. And I want to commend Imani, Bryce Simmons, has done a fantastic job on that. In the UK, where Sir David Ajayi's studio is located and where he's won a number of international bids.
Right.
And he competes in the UK, competes in America. He comes to Ghana, he doesn't want to compete. If you are so good, and we don't take anything away from your competence, your professional, accomplishments. I mean, I think that he's distinguished himself in his chosen field. We can't take that away from him. That's why I'm surprised that he's lending himself to all of this illegality, all of this criminality, and all of this fraudulent endeavor. So how is it that you come to Ghana, you don't want to compete? No, 12.5%.
Was he
it's more than 3 times more than what he's entitled to.
Was he qualified? Sorry, was he qualified to receive these amounts at the time when these payments were made to him? A slap of the law in the face.
Another brilliant question you have asked. I hold in my hands here the National Liberation Council Decree, Architects Decree 1969, NLCD 357. And if you read this law, paragraph 22.1, it says, no registered architect shall be entitled to practice as an architect unless he's a holder of an annual practicing certificate, which is for the time being enforced. So that is, even if you are registered, if you don't have your annual certificate, you are not entitled to practice.
Right.
Then when you come to paragraphs 10 and 11, it's very clear that you cannot practice in Ghana under NLCD 357 if you are not on the register. It is only on the 26th of April this year that he was enrolled.
The office of the Minister for Works and Housing.
Yes, enrolled on the register of architects, and it was done at the office of the Works and Housing Minister. It's quite interesting. He's the only person
What is interesting in that?
the only person, the only architect in Ghanaian history who received that special treatment, who was inducted in the Works and Housing Minister's office. They all take part in a public ceremony where all the architects are called. But no problem, I don't want to. I mean, he's been projected as very special, as if he's doing Ghana a favor. I mean, really, I've said before that I would have thought that looking at his pedigree, all of what he's achieved out there, this is a time really to give back to your country. Right. If I was in his shoes, I would be offering all of these services for free. I would not be burdening the Ghanaian taxpayer as has been done, especially when I know that my beloved president, who I'm so close to, who have privileged proximity to, has said that this is a personal pledge. Now, it is important to emphasize that when you go through the procurement documents, he is awarded this contract in excess of $21 million. Indeed, the 12.5% worked up to about $23.5 million. The PPA board then begs the office of the president. Can you imagine? Even ABAJ thought that this is so high. So he begged in the letter, he begged the office of the president, we beg you discount it, give a discounted rate. So it was discounted, and I'm glad that the letter is on the screen. It was discounted from $23.75 million to $21.3 million.
Right.
Even this is totally inflated.
Do you suspect there are people behind it, beyond the names that we're seeing on the black and white?
I will come to that, Johnny. But will you believe that this is not all he demanded? When you read paragraphs 9 and 11 of the National Cathedral statement carefully, you discover that after he has demanded this $21.3 million, paragraph 11 of the statement, he was called upon to design the Bible Museum and then the Bible Garden, to integrate that.
Right.
Will you believe he charged separately for that as well?
Really?
Many Ghanaians have been averted their mind to it. And they paid him out of the initial $25 million seed money. That is 142.7 million Ghana cedis at the earlier exchange. And you see, Johnny, all of these colossal sums of money that we are doling out to this architect in flagrant violation of the procurement law. Look, in this discussion, let's contextualize it. Let's not forget about our reality, our living reality.
What is our reality?
I hold in my hands here the annual public debt report for the 2021 financial year, presented to Parliament only a couple of weeks ago by Ken Oforiatta, the Minister for Finance. You see, he has submitted to Parliament on Thursday, 31st March 2021.
Right.
When you go through Appendix 4, page 73, from page 73 onwards, and it lists the kind of loans we go for, will you believe that 15 January 2021, we went for a loan for $50 million for agriculture financing for resilient rural development project. 4 February, we went for another loan for just 12 million, less than half of what we are giving to Sir David Ajay from the Israeli Discount Bank for supply of armored vehicles for the Ministry of Defense. 14 April, we went for another loan of 13.6 million euros for the construction of University of Environment and Sustainable Development, Somanya, Eastern Region. Then we went for another loan, 13.5 million euros, less than half of what we have given to Sir David Ajay. Supply of 45 intercity buses for the Ministry of Transport. 27 April, we went for another loan, 18 million, just 18 million. We approached the government of Belgium to give us a loan for that. Another loan on 21st May, $18.3 million.
So bottom line,
another loan that from the UK, 34.9 million. Yes.
But we are not, we rather choose to borrow. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So we are borrowing I mean, for these paltry sums, another $23.8 million from the French government, 30th December 2021, for, we say, vocational and technical education. And yet, this is what we are doing with our money.
You think the public purse is not being protected?
The IMF is now saying that our debt to GDP ratio will hit 84% by close of year.
You think the public purse is not being protected?
The public purse is in tatters. And you see, the reckless manner in which this National Cathedral project, I mean, look, this will go down as the biggest presidential heist, the most grave presidential scandal in the history of this country, because this is a president's project. Are you aware that despite all of these sums of money, we have exposed over 200 million Ghana cedis?
Yes.
Will you believe that when we run checks, went to the project site and I put out drone pictures,
Right.
work has been suspended?
Why?
I have here the letter the lead contractor wrote to their staff, dated March 14, 2022.
Okay. What does it say?
Notice of termination of appointment. It says, due to the lack of payment from National Cathedral of Ghana, which has resulted in the project being suspended, Ribade Company Limited are required under the contract to mitigate costs. In compliance with such an obligation under the contract, Ribade Company Limited has no option but to issue this letter of notice terminating the agreement between Ribade Company Limited and you, as per the provisions of your employment agreement.
So,
This notice of termination takes effect on the 14th of March 2022. You are therefore requested to hand in all properties, that is safety equipment, etc., belonging to the company in your possession to the HR office by close of work of the same day. Yours faithfully, signed, Grant Ramsey, project
what does
manager.
this mean? That the work there, nothing is happening?
Nothing is happening. They've terminated the contract of over 200 workers. They've asked them to go
But
home.
the place is still cordoned off. When you drive by, you
Yes,
see the diversion.
and you notice that even in the 17 June statement by the Secretariat, they admit that work has stalled.
Is it not because people like you are talking and pulling out documents?
It is because this project, we are building the Lord's Temple on a foundation of lies, corruption, unconstitutionalism, lawlessness, and utter disregard for the people of this country.
What would that mean if the cathedral is eventually built?
I'll come to that in a jiffy. Are you aware that when we observed, rather surprisingly, that work has stalled and that construction was not going on, we thought that perhaps the money has gone into compensating victims of demolition. You know that there are a number of properties that were demolished.
Right.
The Malian ambassador's residence was demolished. The Scholarship Secretariat, Passport Office, Judicial Training Institute,
Right.
bungalows of judges, and some private companies like Comsys, like Waterstone Realty Limited.
Okay.
We looked into that, another can of worms.
What did you find?
I hold in my hands here a stash of documents from government sources, our ever reliable patriots. And you observe in this letter signed by John Peter Omewu, they gave very short notice to the Chief Executive Officer of Waterstone Realty. They had employed over 100 Ghanaians. It's an upmarket luxury, apartments. Short notice, May 30th, 2018, they say your property has to be demolished. We are going to build a national cathedral. Since 2018, a company that had employed over 100 people, we were making about 2 million cedis in profit, paying their taxes. Will you believe that up to now, they have not been relocated? They haven't been compensated.
Are you joking?
I'm serious. The Lands Commission, 2 years after, on the 12th of August, per this letter, signed by the Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission, Suleimana Mahama, allocated a bungalow to them somewhere in the rich residential area. Johnny, up to now, 2 years after, They have not been able to take possession. They've not been able to enter.
What's holding that?
People in there say that they work for national security. The Lands Commission cannot tell them what to do. Can you believe it? Same government. And this company has now sent notice. They've written to the Attorney General. They are going to court to demand judgment debt. And they are going to compound all the profits that they have lost.
But what was their initial understanding? I have my building somewhere. I have my property on it.
Yes.
You come, you say you want to build a national cathedral.
Yes.
You demolish it.
Yes.
Shouldn't there have been
Yes,
an understanding
yes.
before?
Our constitution is clear that they are entitled to compensation.
Right.
Government told them, we'll relocate you. Took them 2 years to find a place for them. And that property too is another scandal, which I'll be putting out more details in the coming days.
Along.
Yes.
What about the judges? What about the judges?
You have powerful personalities in government fighting to own that property.
Who are these personalities? Who are these personalities?
In the coming days, I'll be putting on the details.
I'm interested. If you have the information, share the information.
Oh, don't worry. I would let you know that I like to get my documents.
Right. Hold them.
I have the final evidence before
what,
I come.
What about the judges? There were judges living there too. They were relocated.
Yes, they were relocated. Will you believe the judges were given 12-hour notice? Last week I put out the sad ordeal of an eminent jurist, Justice Said Kwekujan,
right,
who was so upset he resigned.
And that's the National Cathedral, the state of affairs now.
Yeah, over 200 million Ghana cedis.
Our sister station, Onya FM, Onya TV, they got this one.
Yeah, that's how 200 million Ghana cedis looks like. Remember that...
It's flooded, eh?
Yeah, remember that President Mahama built the famous Shai Osudoku District Hospital, fully equipped, beautiful, modern, ultra-modern, for 115 million cedis. And that is 200 million. President Mahama could have given us about 2 of those district hospitals.
We're talking about the judges.
So the judges were...
12-hour notice, you say?
Were given 12-hour notice. They had to be relocated. We had to pay about $5,000 a month for their temporary accommodation. And then, hurriedly, the Judicial Service had to go into some agreement with a private developer to take half of their land so that the private developer would then construct new bungalows for these dislodged judges. Now, for the Judicial Training Institute, Johnny, you'll be amazed to realize that as we speak, the Chief Justice is looking for $50 million. Government says he doesn't have the money, so he is hopping from bank to bank. The last time I tracked this, he had engaged the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development.
To borrow money?
To borrow $50 million.
And we had a school?
Yes, Judicial Training Institute. Yes, training.
We broke it down?
Yes.
So where do they train? We are not looking for money to train.
Yes, currently they are putting up temporarily in the judicial, the court complex, the first floor, the ground floor of the court complex. And the Chief Justice is hopping from bank to bank.
To borrow money. To
borrow $50 million. I mean, look, the kind of... I've been asking myself, so when...
Are you surprised at the president's silence on this matter? Because he made a definite promise.
Yeah, that this is a priority of priorities.
And then he said, yes, priority of priorities. He said this will bring the grace of God, Elohim, all of that. Are you surprised that the president is quiet in all of what's happening?
I'm not surprised he's quiet, really, because he's embarrassed. He's been exposed. So what really is he going to say? I'm sure he must be filled with shame. Look, the Chief Justice, he's filled with the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development. Because really, when people hear this, you had a Judicial Training Institute, then you bring it down, raise it to the ground, and then you are chasing us for loans. Really? You know, so it's not going well. He's now approached the World Bank. And interestingly, the land that he wants to cite this, the land belongs to SNIT. SNIT is also demanding payment. That is the Cocoa Affairs Court area.
Right.
Yeah, the land belongs to SNIT. So look at the mess. And then you have the private developers who are also on their way to court. judgment debt.
Because national security
yes,
says they will move.
They will move. Same
Lands
government.
Commission says
Same government. Same top government officials fighting. And you see letters upon letters their lawyers have written. No response. Works and Housing Minister, no response. Lands Minister, National Security, because there are powerful interests in that land.
And you say you reveal that.
Yes, that is a whole scandal on its own.
Tell me,
which I'll be putting out in the coming days.
NDC government continue the National Cathedral if it does happen that this government is not able to complete the National Cathedral project?
So before I come to that, I wanted to just put a figure to all of this, compensation claims.
Right.
When you hear government saying that, oh, the cost of this cathedral is $350 million, please add $100 million.
That's for compensation.
For compensation. Remember that the Chief Justice is looking for $50 million as a loan, which will be a burden on the Ghanaian taxpayer. Then the Malian ambassador, he's waiting for his property at Airport Residential. That was the promise we made to the Malian government. So he's waiting. We say Airport Residential will build him a new one. He's waiting. So
we are still not giving him.
Yes, he is
has diplomatic.
Yes, that has diplomatic implications.
And you sit on the
the Foreign Affairs Committee. Yes, yeah. So they are waiting because they gave us good land, in their country. So they are waiting for their compensation. The private developers, these private entities, Waterstone Realty, Comsys, they are also waiting for their compensation. And then scholarship secretariats, they don't have a place yet. They are also waiting. So you need to put all of that. We've done conservative estimates, and we are saying it's $100 million at least, at the very least. Okay. So you need to add that. So $450 million.
But what was the initial agreement? The initial estimate put to this National Cathedral was not $400 million, right?
It was another brilliant question. So Finance Minister first went public, said $100 million.
Right.
Then it went to $200 million, $250 million. Now it's $350 million. It's become a moving target. I'm not surprised that my colleague, the Honorable Isaac Adongo, says by the time we get to December, it may be $1 billion. It's become a moving target. We are not clear. And you see, the question that you ask, at this stage of our development, in this excruciating economic crisis, look, as we speak, so many government obligations. I am a member of parliament. Right. I see it in reality. Look, you go to the constituency, your NAPCO workers who have not been paid for 8 months. I remember at Christmas, I just couldn't bring myself to just be with my family enjoying Christmas. So I had to call all of them together and put together a package for them. National service personnel, for the first time, we are seeing national service personnel not being paid. They had to demonstrate the last time. I had to donate my 2 months' salary to the few national service personnel I have in my constituency because I see landlords chasing them. They have come from far, from the north, from western region, and just because they want to do national service.
You don't think this is a priority?
School feeding caterers. I mean, can you imagine that government says that it cannot raise the per child feeding rate of 97 pesos
to 3 cedis? That's what they asked me for.
Aren't we ashamed as a people? And you think God will be pleased that in the face of all of this, you say that you can't find money for these obligations. Health insurance is in arrears, more than 2 billion. Get fund is in arrears. District Assembly Common Fund is in arrears. And you think that this should be your priority of priorities?
Is the president wrong in this?
They haven't read Matthew chapter 25.
What does it say?
When Jesus the Christ said on the judgment day, many will be shocked. Because he was naked, he was not clothed, he was hungry, he was not fed, he was thirsty, they didn't give him water to drink. He was in prison, he wasn't visited, he was sick, and they didn't take care of him. And the people will ask on judgment day, oh, but my Lord, when did we see you? If we had seen you hungry, we'll have fed you. If we had seen you thirsty. He says, he will tell all of us that because you didn't do it for the least amongst you, for the vulnerable amongst you, you didn't do it for me.
But there's the interesting thing. There's a Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. There's a diasporan and what you call religious office at the office of the president. They should be able to advise the president of this, don't you think?
It's clear that the president has become impervious to advice. I mean, I've heard the Christian Council issue a statement and say the government must come clean on this project and government must be transparent. Look, as far back as 28 November 2018, when government first announced a shift, that this would be a partnership between the state and the church, Dr. Dominic Kayeni at column 2893 said, and I quote, Mr. Speaker, I have reviewed the budget statement itself, and there is no statement whatsoever which relates to the National Cathedral. In other words, there has been no request for any estimate to be approved by this House for the construction.
Will an NDC government continue this National Cathedral? Because we have sunk money into it. We've started. Some of the view that we should continue. Some say, look, stop it, turn it into an hospital or another educational institution or something. Would an NDC government continue the National Cathedral project?
Another brilliant question, as always. As you do know, the National Democratic Congress, as our name implies, is a national party. We are Democrats. We will go to the people and ask for their position. There will be a scientific way of hearing from the people and doing what pleases the people. Fortunately for our country, the majority are Christians, more than 70%. We will go to them and ask them what should be our marching orders. Remember that this pledge was not even in the MPP manifesto. The president has sprung this huge surprise on us, and it has become such a major financial burden. I mean, it's what it has destroyed in its wake. All of these demolitions. Now we are looking for loans and we are all over the place. What the NDC will do is to go back to the people, for the people to decide what should be done. Look, at the personal level, I can tell you that if some of us had been consulted, I would have first of all suggested that this is done at a green field, fresh land. We have been talking about decongesting the central business district for many, many years. It's a golden opportunity. Number two, I would even have been suggesting about timing, so that you can take your time. That if that is what we think should be done, because now if you listen to them, it's not even just a cathedral. They are talking about event center, restaurants, and all of that, you know. So I will have made suggestions, because if you consider the fact that you go through a budget, 2021 budget, we have gone for a loan to build a new conference center. I will have said, let there be some, you know, some convergence, you know, some consolidation. Consolidate both projects so that we get value for money. We go for loans for 8 million, 12 million.
Okay, we have to go.
And then, Johnny, this is important.
Quickly.
I would have also suggested that we pace ourselves. If you look at countries that have cathedrals, check the duration of the cathedral. Washington National Cathedral was built in 82 years. Wealthy United States of America. Private funded, by the way. It took them 82 years. The Milan Cathedral took 579 years. The Cologne Cathedral took 74 years. Notre Dame, which the president is enamored by, the first phase, 26 years. St. Paul's Cathedral in London, 35 years. Here we are rushing in these harsh times, and we say by 2024 we want to complete. What is wrong with us?
When the National Cathedral is finally completed, will you worship in it?
I have said that, you see, at this point, Christians should declare a 40-day fast to cleanse and purge that project. If that is not done, many of us will not go near it, because I can't guarantee that our prayers will even go past Chebi, you know, and get to heaven. I know, as a former vice president of the Scripture Union, when I was in Presec, and leader of the evangelical team, I know the Lord we serve. He says that whatever is pure, whatever is honest, whatever is of a good report, whatever is moral, is upright. You know, think on these things. That's what he told the Philippians. So I don't see how this will be. We are told that this is going to bring us some blessings. And see how people are conducting themselves. violating the procurement law, the constitution of
Should the
Ghana.
Board of Trustees, my final question, should the Board of Trustees resign and block on a matter of principle, as a mark of principle, and in accordance with their religion and what the Bible says, truthfulness and honesty? Should they resign and block to send a signal to the president?
I think it will do their image and their reputation good. Look, these are people who have built on their own through dint of hard work. This is hard-won reputation over decades. They don't deserve what this government is doing to them. The dishonesty, the fraudulent misrepresentations, the blatant corruption, the inflation of prices, they don't deserve it. The unconstitutional conduct, the lawlessness, and see all the talk. Look at the national outrage. I don't think that they deserve this. So it would really have been in their best interest. Look, I am deeply, deeply pained. I am so, so sad that this is happening, including my own pastor, Reverend Isu Anaba, who I know does not even take allowances. People think that there's some benefit they may be making. Reverend Isu Anaba does not even take allowances. I know the Archbishop doesn't also do. You know, Archbishop Duncan Williams. So it hurts me so, so much that all of these years, and you know, some of the people who don't believe in the church, who, you know, may have, you know, targeted Christianity for a long time, we've even given them an opportunity, and we've become some laughing stock, and the name of our great religion is being brought into disrepute because of these unholy shenanigans. It really, really saddens me.
I thank you very much indeed. Our time is up. It has been a great conversation here.
Pleasure.
That's the Honorable Samuel Okudzeto Ablakwa. He's the Member of Parliament for Northtown constituency in the Volta region. And he's been sharing with us revelations, things that he's found. We'll follow up on that Attorney General's inclusion as secretary to the private entity called the National Cathedral per the revelation from the Registrar General's Department, and we'll give you some more details. Tomorrow is another day. We'll be back with a full package, a full working week, TV3 New Day. Stay with us and enjoy the rest of our programming. Good morning.